Greetings and welcome to Learn What's New in macOS Sequoia, a video tutorial from the macu.com. Sequoia is version 15 of macOS and brings a variety of new features and changes to the Mac. This tutorial is not going to cover Apple Intelligence features, which will arrive on all Macs that have an M-series chip with macOS 15.1 later in the fall of 2024. We'll be releasing a separate Apple Intelligence tutorial covering those specific features. The topics discussed in this tutorial will apply to most Macs that macOS Sequoia can be installed on. We have a couple changes in system settings that I'd like to cover right away. First, your Apple ID is now known as your Apple account. Within this section is our basic information, purchases, iCloud information, and a list of devices that are associated with our Apple account. Within iCloud settings, we now have a Save to iCloud section. This will display all the apps and services that we can sync with iCloud and whether or not those are activated. So these are just a couple changes to remember the next time you head into system settings. For more general lessons on the overall use of your Mac, check out our macOS Core Concepts tutorial. And for those of you that also own an iPhone or iPad, take a look at the iOS Core Concepts and What's New in iOS 18 tutorials. With that, let's get started with iPhone mirroring in macOS Sequoia. With the new iPhone mirroring app in macOS Sequoia, we're now able to view and operate our iPhone directly from the display of our Mac. iPhone mirroring is a Mac app that we can see here in my Applications folder, and I have it down in the dock. Launch it for the first time, and we get an intro panel that lets us know what we can do with iPhone mirroring, such as utilizing iPhone apps, viewing notifications that would otherwise only appear on our iPhone, and we will even be able to move files between the Mac and iPhone by drag and drop. Click Continue, and I'll need to unlock my iPhone. And then we have this option to allow notifications from my iPhone to appear here on the Mac. I'll allow this. And next I need to unlock the iPhone mirroring app with my Mac password. I currently have my iPhone unlocked and the display is on, so my Mac thinks it's in use. If I then lock the iPhone, the display will appear over on the Mac. As I bring my pointer over the iPhone display, a two-finger swipe on the trackpad will let me move between home screens. Single click on an app to launch it. We're able to enter text on the iPhone using the Mac keyboard. There are a few options for getting back to the home screen. From up in the View menu, we can simply select Home Screen here, or use the shortcut Command 1. Notice that we have shortcuts for the App Switcher and Spotlight. We can also make the iPhone display larger or smaller. Hover over the top edge of the iPhone display and a toolbar appears. In the upper right, we have Home Screen and App Switcher buttons. In the upper left are our normal close and minimize buttons. Now let's see how an iPhone notification will appear on our Mac while iPhone mirroring is active. I currently have the iPhone mirroring window down in my dock. Here in Notification Center on the Mac, we have a Threads notification. Notice the icon here, letting me know that this is an iPhone notification. Click on it, and the iPhone mirroring app opens up into the Threads app, where I could then respond to this mention. The next significant iPhone mirroring feature will be the ability to drag and drop from the iPhone mirroring display to and from the Mac. But that is not yet available. Apple says it will be added later this year, so stay tuned for that. Finally, we have a settings panel for the iPhone mirroring app. Here we can switch from needing to enter our Mac password every time to unlock iPhone mirroring. Switch to automatic, and as long as the Mac is unlocked, iPhone mirroring will be as well. If you're having issues connecting iPhone mirroring, or you get a new iPhone, resetting iPhone access may be necessary. Window tiling in macOS Sequoia allows us to quickly place any window into half or quarter of our display. This can be done by dragging the window, hovering over the green full screen button, accessing the menu bar, or by utilizing a keyboard shortcut. Let's start with the dragging option. I have a calendar window here, and if I drag this to the left, when my cursor or pointer arrow gets to the very edge, an outline of half my display appears. Release and the calendar window will fill that area. To quickly get back to the previous size, just move the window out of that area. Next, let's drag the window up. When the cursor crosses into the menu bar, an outline appears for the entire display. This doesn't put the calendar app into full screen mode. It only expands the window to fill the display, which will cover up the other windows if there are any open. Full screen mode will move the app into its own desktop. Again, we can move the window to return it to its previous size. We can also resize the window like normal after tiling it. Next, let's drag into the top left corner. That gives me a quarter display window option. Release to place the window in that section. Let's do the same with the Notes app to the upper right. When dragging into the corner, you need to be pretty precise. If I'm just a little bit off, the full or half screen tiling option will appear instead. And if you drag too far into any area, no tiling option will appear. I already have a habit of moving windows into a corner, but I don't always want them to tile to a full, half, or quarter of the display. So in Desktop and Dock settings, we can deactivate the Tile by Dragging option. With this off, I can now move any windows into the corner and not have the tiling outline automatically appear. But if I hold down the Option key while dragging, the half tile options will appear right away. Drag to the top for the Fill Screen option, and drag to the top or bottom corners to make the quarter options appear. If you don't want option drag to activate tiling, that can also be turned off here in Settings. When hovering over the green full screen button in any window, we're presented with two sets of tiling options. The top row represents options for only the selected window. We're able to tile to half of the display, either side, top or bottom. The other windows on the display are not affected. This bottom row will arrange the other windows on the display along with the one that is selected. If I choose the half and half option here, it will tile the selected window and the one directly behind it, which in this case is the Notes app window. We're able to tile all three windows on the display with this option. The selected window fills the left half of the display, and the other two windows get a quarter each on the opposite side. If I add another window, we're able to tile all four in quarters. From the window menu, we have a Move and Resize section. In here, there are 8 tiling options for just the currently selected window, and 5 more that will arrange multiple windows on the display. Oddly, this Arrange menu doesn't have the 3-window option that we just used from the full screen button. I'd hope that those are added here eventually. Notice that many of these tiling options also have keyboard shortcuts. So with these, we can quickly tile a window to the left half of the display with the shortcut Control Function Left Arrow. The function key is also known as the globe key, and on current Mac keyboards, it's in the far lower left, right next to the Control key. As you learn these shortcuts, this can be the quickest way to tile windows. Function Control and whatever arrow key to tile to half the display. Once we do that to one window, just select another and use the same shortcut with the opposite arrow to fill the display with those two windows. Or add Shift to the same shortcuts to instantly tile and arrange your top two windows. This can seem like a lot of buttons to hold down at once, but the first three are all in the same area of the keyboard, so you're really just worried about the arrow key. The shortcut Function Control R will work to return a window to its previous size, along with just dragging it. So far, my tiled windows all have had space between them. To utilize every bit of screen real estate, we're able to turn off margins for tiled windows. With this deactivated, the windows are going to butt up right against each other, maximizing their size. Utilizing tiling can be a great way to quickly resize and arrange one or multiple windows on your Mac's display. After updating to macOS Sequoia, a new app called Passwords is going to be added to your Applications folder. This replaces the Passwords system setting that previously existed in macOS as well as iOS. So we're now able to manage and sync saved passwords from this app on all our Macs, iPhones, and iPads, as long as they are logged in to the same iCloud account. From iCloud settings in macOS Sequoia and later, we are only able to toggle on or off the sync passwords option. Everything else is now managed from the app. All the passwords that were saved in system settings are going to be automatically moved to this new Passwords app. Within the app, we can view all our saved passwords and look at specific categories. We're also able to search for a specific password or account. When viewing an item, we're able to see information such as the last time the password was modified or changed, the password itself, and the specific website or sites that it's associated with. Right-click on an item here and we can delete it from the Passwords app. This will then prevent us from being able to autofill our login information for this site if it's deleted. Deleted passwords will be retained in the deleted section of the Passwords app for about 30 days before they're permanently removed and can't be recovered. One of the really helpful things that the Passwords app does is track and alert us of security issues with any of our saved passwords. From the security section, I can see several passwords that have either been compromised due to a data leak, are too weak, or they've been used as a password too often. Either way, it's going to be a good idea to update any of these passwords. We have a Change Password button here that in this case will load Instagram.com in Safari. And it jumps directly into the Change Password page, which is nice because this can be a chore to find on a lot of sites and apps. I can then autofill my old password and have the Passwords app suggest a new password. Click Change, and this is going to be saved in my Passwords app and synced to my other devices, so I won't have any trouble logging into Instagram the next time I launch it on my iPhone. From the Wi-Fi section, we can see all the Wi-Fi networks that I've logged into and saved with this Mac and my other devices. Select a network and we're able to share its details with someone, view its password, forget the network, which will remove it from this list, or we can display a QR code for the network. This will allow any smartphone or tablet to scan the QR code and join that network. There's nothing wrong with having a long list here, but if you want to clean out networks that you don't recognize or no longer will be using, just select those that you want to remove, right-click, and choose Forget. Another great way to utilize the Passwords app is to make it available in the menu bar. We can turn this on here in Passwords Settings. That adds a key icon up in the menu bar. Now, just like from the app, we can unlock this with Touch ID, and a list of commonly used passwords will be displayed. And we have a search field to quickly locate any saved password. This can be really helpful if you might be using a third-party web browser, such as Firefox, which won't integrate with the Passwords app like Safari can. Instead, I can quickly retrieve my login information for Target.com from the Passwords menu bar item. Just single-click the username and password to copy them, and then paste into Firefox, and I can log in. Most web browsers will then invite us to save that login information into that browser's password manager. If I'm going to be regularly logging into this site with Firefox, I might want to do that. But if this is just something I'll be doing occasionally, there's probably no need to save the login information here in Firefox when I have such easy access to it from up in the menu bar. For more on saving, syncing, and managing passwords, take a look at our iCloud and macOS Core Concepts tutorials. In the Mac Messages app, when signed into iCloud and using iMessage, we can now set a message to send at a later time. If Drew has a birthday coming up and I don't want to forget to send a happy birthday message on that day, we can now schedule it. So I'll enter a quick message here and then click the Add button to bring up our iMessage app tray where we now have a Send Later option. Select this and I'm able to enter the exact day and time for the message to be sent. Hit the return key and the message is placed into the conversation, but this dashed outline lets us know that it has not been delivered. Up here we can see when this is set up to send later. Click Edit to send the message immediately, edit the scheduled time, or simply delete the message. To edit the content of the scheduled message, right or Control-click directly on it and then edit. Our conversation here in Messages can proceed as usual. The scheduled message will remain at the bottom of the conversation until it's sent. I could even set up a second message to send later. This time I'll schedule it to send in the next couple of minutes. When that time rolls around, the message is delivered to Drew, which we can see here on his iPhone. This is a really convenient new feature in Messages that I've already used several times. Next up, we'll look at the new text effects that are available in Messages. When sending a message, we can now apply a text effect to all or only part of that text. In this first example, I'll select the word effects. Then, from up in the Format menu, or with a right-click, we have basic formatting options that include bold, italic, underline, or strike-through, which are not animated when applied. Or we can choose from a set of animated text effects. These options are going to animate every few seconds. I'm going to apply the shake effect to the word messages. and the explode effect to the word text. So now I've applied 3 different effects on 3 different words in this message. Send that, and we can see how it looks when it arrives on Drew's iPhone. Drew can of course send a reply using text effects. The Tapback feature in Messages lets us quickly reply to a message by applying an emoji graphic to it. In macOS Sequoia and iOS 18, the options for what we can use as a tapback expand greatly. We now have more colorful default tapback options here. Or choose Tapback Details and then click this gray emoji symbol for access to every emoji icon as well as our own custom stickers. Just click on one to apply it as a tapback. To remove or edit the tapback, click on it and then click the currently selected emoji or sticker to remove the tapback, or simply select another one to change the tapback. The Photos app in macOS Sequoia has undergone somewhat of a redesign, but the changes here on the Mac are going to be less obvious than they are in iOS 18. We now have a Collections section in the sidebar that replaced what was the Albums section. Albums are now included as a collection. When viewing our library, we have Years, Months, and All Photos tabs here across the top. The Days tab has been moved under Collections. Double-click on a day here to view its contents. Featured Photos is brand new and will automatically attempt to pick out some of your best images. We are able to manually remove a featured photo, but we can't manually add any images to the Featured Photos collection. Trips is also new and is automatically curated to display photos from travel destinations. This photos library isn't large enough for photos to recognize any trips. In my personal photos library, quite a selection of trips are displayed. These trips are automatically named and they display the month and year in which they occurred. Double-click on one for a summary view of the images, or we can choose to view all the photos for that trip. The Utilities section is also newly added. It will contain things like our hidden and recently deleted photos, along with duplicates, illustrations, and more. The Notes app has 2 new features related to text formatting. Let's start with collapsible sections. This will allow for a section of text to be hidden with a click on a turn-down arrow. I have a sample set up here with 3 section titles, 1, 2, and 3. To make these sections collapsible, we need to format the section titles or headings as title, heading, or subheading from up in the Format button here. Since my section titles are already entered, I'll need to select each first to format them. I'm going to assign the heading format to all 3. Now when we hover over any of the titles, a turn-down arrow appears to the left. Click to collapse the section and hide the content beneath the formatted title. Of course, we can also do this as we type up a note as well. Just format your section title or heading, hit return to create a line break, then we can enter the text for that section. I'm just entering a single line of content here for these examples, but you can enter as much text as you want under a heading as long as it's formatted as body text. Click the turn down triangle here to hide it. We can also now apply a highlight to selected text. Once selected, click the Format button, and here we have a highlight button and next to it a color selector. If the currently selected color is the one I want to use, then just click the highlight button to apply it to the selected text. Click on the color selector to change the color of the highlight. Any of our text styles can be highlighted, so we're able to highlight each section title if desired. To remove a highlight, just select the text again and turn off the highlight from here in the Format panel. Another very significant addition to Notes is live audio transcription. With this, we're able to record a presentation, meeting, lecture, or interview as it's happening, and within Notes we'll end up with an audio file of the recording, as well as a text transcription of what was recorded. To add a new recording, simply click the Record Audio button up here. That adds a new recording into the note, and a recording interface opens to the right. When ready, click on the Record button.
So a lot of the topics we're talking about today, they're also going to come up in our future lectures.
While recording, we're able to add to or edit this note. I could even bring in media or paste text in from other apps while the recording continues.
Pretty famous dude, economist, right? Around 1776, just as the Americans are starting to draft that Declaration of Independence about the United States. From shopkeepers, tradesmen, and attorneys, they are becoming statesmen and legislators and are employed and is very likely to become one of the great...
Click on the transcription button here to view the live transcription of the audio.
So Smith is looking at the U.S. from across the ocean and saying...
Pause the recording, and we can then click anywhere within this transcription to listen back to that section.
So we'll start here with Adam Smith, pretty famous dude, economist, right? Around 1776, set them to war.
This text is also selectable, so we can copy all or part of it into this note or anywhere else. We can add multiple recordings into a single note. Just start up again as we did before.
Empire, if they pull this revolution.
It's possible to pause and resume recording as much as needed and retain just this single recording.
This democracy. Day of class. The idea that the frontier and empire is tied.
We cannot, however, jump into another note while recording. That will automatically stop the recording. We can rename a recording with a click on the ellipsis button up here, or by right-clicking on the recording in the note. These audio recordings can be shared or saved as standalone audio files. They can also be copy and pasted into other notes or apps. Use this Find in Transcript command to search for specific words or phrases within the transcription. I could then just click on one of the results to start listening from that spot.
1776, just as the Americans are starting to draft that Declaration of Independence that's going to set them to war with Great Britain.
At the top of this transcription, notice that I have a Summarize button. This is an Apple Intelligence feature that will be added later in 2024. Click and the AI will summarize the contents below into a single paragraph. Click on the Done button to close the recording panel. To get this back, we just need to double-click on one of the recordings in our note. Having a full transcript of a meeting or lecture that is editable and searchable like this can be extremely useful for a lot of Mac users. Math Notes in macOS essentially puts a calculator into the Notes app. If I type out a quick calculation, when I enter an equal sign, the result is presented in light blue. Hit the space bar or the enter key to skip to the end of the result, and I could then continue typing or go down a couple lines and enter a different calculation. These calculations remain editable, so if I need to make an adjustment to one of these numbers, the result is instantly updated. Click on or hover over a number in a calculation, and we get this slider button. Click and drag to add or increase the value of the number. The result is displayed as the number changes. I could also add to the calculation and get a new result. From up in the Format menu, we have three options for math results. The default and currently selected option is Suggest Results. This requires me to enter an equal sign for results to then be displayed. Switch to Insert Results, and the equal sign doesn't need to be entered anymore. The result will be displayed automatically. We can also turn off math results from the Format menu. With this, no result is presented for a calculation. We'll need to figure this out on our own, or we could jump into the Mac Calculator app and perform the calculation there. Choose Show History in the calculator, and we could copy and paste that calculation into the Notes app. Turn Suggest Results back on, and the result will be displayed. We can also quickly jump into the Notes app from the calculator using the View menu and Open Math Notes. In iOS 18, Math Notes is a little more impressive as it can recognize and solve handwritten calculations. See more on that in our What's New in iOS 18 tutorial. Scheduled reminders can now be viewed, edited, and created in the Mac Calendar app. Let's begin in the Reminders app. Currently, I have 6 scheduled reminders. These will be the only reminders that appear in Calendar. Click on All Reminders, and we can see that scheduled reminders have a date and time displayed below them, which makes them a good fit to appear in our Calendar app. Here under Projects, there are 2 standard reminders, which aren't going to be displayed in Calendar. Same goes for my grocery list here in Reminders. Over in the Calendar app, in the Month view, reminders appear with a circle to the left of their name. This can be clicked to mark the reminder as completed. If I mark this reminder completed in Calendar, it's completed in the Reminders app as well. From the Calendar sidebar, we can show or hide scheduled reminders just like any other calendar. From up in the View menu, we can decide whether or not to display our completed reminders here in Calendar. Click on the Add button up here, and we can now add a new event or a reminder. I find it easier to add a new event or reminder with a right or control click on the calendar itself. In this panel, we have all the same inputs for a new reminder as we do in the Reminders app. We can create a location-based reminder here, but it has to occur on a specific day to exist in Calendar. So rather than getting a reminder to pick up mail at a specific time, it's just going to happen when I leave work today. That reminder is added here in Calendar and in my Reminders app. Switch to week or day view in Calendar, and we can see that events can occupy chunks of time within your calendar. Reminders will only occupy one line. So that can be a good way to decide if you want to create a new event or a new reminder, whether or not it's going to take up a significant enough amount of time to block that off in your calendar. Having events and reminders visible in a single place lets us see everything that's scheduled for our day, week, or month. For more on how to use each of these apps for Mac or iOS, take a look at their individual tutorials. In Safari, we have a couple new features that can make web pages and the information within them easier to find and take in. First is highlights. This can present a paragraph summary of some web pages, or it can display a quick map view if we're on a page that features a location. Highlights won't be available on every page that you view in Safari. When a highlight is available, the reader icon here in the address bar will gain a couple purple stars. As the page loads, we'll also be informed in the address bar momentarily. Click on the Reader button to see a summary of this page. Click Show Reader View and the summary is displayed in here as well. Let's move over to a hotel web page. When I reload this, we're alerted that its location is available as a highlight, and those purple stars are displayed. Click and we can see this hotel's entry from Apple Maps. Click the panel and we jump into the Maps app. The same sort of highlight is available on this web page for a dentist's office. Summaries can be really helpful when you're viewing news articles, although they're not going to appear every single time. In some longer articles, Reader can now automatically break the text down into a table of contents. We can then click to quickly jump to each section of this article. Also from within the Reader button, we now have a Hide Distracting Items button. This can remove sections of a web page that are distracting or simply annoying. While on a page, select Hide Distracting Items, and then we just need to click on the section of the web page that we want to hide. In this case, I'm going to hide the sidebar on the right because it contains this distracting video that autoplays. Just click and it fades away. We can attempt to hide ads as well, but this feature isn't designed as an ad blocker. Be sure to click the Done button up here to return to normal browsing. Now we're able to view that page without those distracting items. To get that sidebar back, we can just go back to the Reader button and show hidden items. In a significant addition to Apple Maps in iOS 18 and macOS Sequoia, we now have access to topographic maps that contain pre-saved hikes in national parks, and the Maps app gains the ability to let us plan and save our own custom hiking or walking routes. Here on my Mac, I have the Maps app open, and we're looking at an area of Mount Rainier National Park. Notice that there are a couple of trailheads marked on the map here. If I click on the Nisqually Vista trailhead, in the pop-up we can get directions to the trailhead, as well as create a custom walking route from the trailhead, which we'll look more at later. Scroll down a bit here, and there are a few pre-saved hikes available that start at this trailhead. I'll select the Nisqually Vista Trail. That displays the route of the hike on the map, along with the length and elevation changes along the way. Click Add to Library to save the hike. We're able to edit the name and add a note about it here if needed. That hike is now saved in the Route section of my Maps library and will be available offline. So when I get to the trailhead and have no cellular connection, the trail map and other details will still be available. Rather than just relying on pre-saved hikes, we can also create our own custom routes and save those to our library as well. I'll start from the same trailhead, but this time choose the Create Custom Route option. Now if I have an idea of the hike that I want to do here, it can be planned out just by clicking along the route. If I get to a point where the trail ends, I'm able to backtrack and get onto a different trail. Notice the distance and elevation information is updated here in the upper right as I plan the route. If you need to go back a step, use the undo button up here. And to close the loop, click this button here. So there's my custom route, which can then be saved and given a name. This directions button does not apply to the hiking route. It's going to give you directions to the trailhead. We don't need to be in a national park to create custom hiking routes like this. I can mark a location anywhere on the map. Then from this ellipsis button, we can create a custom route. This is not the same as the Plan Route button over here. Create Custom Route is only for walking directions. Next, I can click on the map to build my custom route, which can go through this neighborhood as well as into the trail system over here. After adding my points, I can close the loop and save it to be able to view the route on my iPhone or iPad as long as my Maps app is synced via iCloud. This can be a really great feature for finding and creating your own hiking routes, or just mapping out a quick walk around your neighborhood. In Freeform, we can now add scenes, which can make navigating a large board with a lot of content quite a bit easier. So this board, called Freeform Lessons, has 4 distinct areas of content. To move between these currently, I need to click and drag around the board. If each section of this board is saved as a scene, it's going to be a lot less effort to move between them. We're able to view our scenes in the lower left, next to the zoom and indicator controls. To add a new scene, first zoom into the section of the board that you want to save as the scene. Then click down here to add a new one. We can also do this from the Scene section of the View menu. The area is quickly outlined in blue and saved in the Scenes list here. Then from the ellipsis button, we can give the scene a name. I'll call this one Images. Let's move to another section of the board and I'll add a second scene. I'll name this one Sketches. Now with 2 scenes on the board, we can use the Scene Navigator to select a scene to jump to. Or use these arrows to move between all the scenes on the board. I'm going to add my final 2 scenes onto this board. The quickest way to add a scene is with the shortcut Shift-Command-S. Once those are saved, we're able to quickly jump from scene to scene on this board. Scenes can be deleted with a click on their ellipsis button here in the Scene Navigator. Deleting a scene won't remove any content from your board. Also from the Scene Navigator, we're able to print a scene or save a scene as a PDF. This will basically convert the content visible within a scene into a PDF for simple sharing. Your Freeform board and their scenes will sync to your iPhone or iPad via iCloud.